Hello students, I hope you guys are doing well today. What I'm going to do is look over the three poems that you're going to be reading by Thomas Hardy this week and give you guys some of my own thoughts and some ideas about Thomas Hardy's poetry through Hap, Neutral Tones, and the Darkling Thrush. Those are the three poems that you guys are going to be reading this week. About Thomas Hardy, make sure you guys look at that YouTube video, the Thomas Hardy biography in under 5 minutes. It's really quick, but it gives a great overview of his life and the time that he lived in England. As you will see from the video, he's a pretty pessimistic guy. He was actually initially going to be a priest or a pastor in the Church of England, and then he fell away from his faith, and when he falls away from his faith, he falls away hard, so he becomes this very negative, bitter person, which you'll see in some of his poetry. But ironically, he was still a beautiful poet. He just tended to see the negative side of life, and I think you'll see that when you read through his poems. So the first poem, Hap, the word hap actually stands for happenstance or chance. So the poem deals a lot with this idea of everything happening. Does everything happen for a reason? Is there a God behind or a purpose behind the universe, or is everything just chance or luck? So in the last stanza, the last couple lines, he says, "These purblind doomsters," and the annotation here, purblind doomsters mean half-blind judges. "These purblind doomsters had as readily strewn blisses about my pilgrimage as pain." So this idea that it's half blind, it's chance, it's happenstance, right? Where you get some blisses in life, but you get pain in your pilgrimage. And for pilgrimage, he would probably mean your pilgrimage from birth to death, and that maybe is it. So in the first couple stanzas, look at how he addresses God in the first two stanzas, and hopefully just those little bits of ideas right there will help you as you read the poem. Okay? In Neutral Tones, the poem is going to discuss a relationship between a man and a woman, and Hardy, our great pessimist guy, he is not going to write this real lovey-dovey poem about the relationship. In fact, the relationship, he has some kind of bitter memory of it in Neutral Tones. So in the last stanza, "Since then, keen lessons that love deceives and rings with wrong have shaped to me," so the deceiving love has shaped to him, has created an image in his mind of your face, the God-cursed sun, and a tree and a pond edged with grayish leaves. So the deceiving love, when he remembers this deceiving love, he thinks of this woman's face, he thinks of the God-cursed sun, and a tree and a pond edged with grayish leaves. In Neutral Tones, look at the colors that Hardy brings up. He brings up ash and gray, not green and spring and full of joy. The title kind of gives away this neutral tones: gray, ash, a disturbing kind of, or a sad relationship, and the memory of that relationship. Okay, and then finally, the Darkling Thrush. That's my personal favorite one. The Darkling, so Darkling, that word means just simply dark, and thrush is a type of bird that's famous in England. It sings, it's known for having a beautiful sound to its singing, its whistling, the bird itself, okay? When you're reading through this poem, know that in the first stanza he's kind of describing where he's at. "I leant upon a coppice gate when frost was spectre gray, and winter's dregs made desolate the weakening eye of day. The tangled vine stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres, and all mankind that haunted nigh had sought their household fires." So he's leaning on a gate. I imagine him kind of going into this graveyard type place. The frost was gray, so ugly snow that's gray. Winter's dregs made desolate the weakening eye of day. When he describes the trees there, it's kind of memorable imagery. The tangled vine stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres. So the tangled vine stems are these ugly bushes, stems, and they're real stringy. The broken lyres, Lyres, they're like guitar strings. Think of them like that. And these lyres, the branches, they have no leaves on them. They're not beautiful or green or anything. They're just brown and ugly, and they're kind of covering the sky over his head. Okay. And then mankind is seeking out their household fire, so no one else is with him in this cemetery. It's just him by himself. In the second stanza, he talks about the century's corpse outlent. He wrote this poem in 1900, so he's going to be talking about, is there hope for this new century, and after the corpse or the death of the old century, the 1800 to 1899. So that's how he describes the whole 19th century, as a corpse. Again, cheerful guy, right? In the third stanza, the wind his death lament, the ancient pulse of German birth. So the death lament, so the wind that's around them is a death lament. Lament is a very sad song you might sing at a funeral for someone's death. The ancient pulse of germ and birth, so the ancient pulse, so he's talking about things do come in our birth, so something new is coming, this new century, but he puts that word germ with it too, like it could be like a disease-like. Every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I, so every person on earth, he says, is fervorless as he is, meaning fervor. To have fervor means to have like warmth or feeling, but he's saying that no one does, okay? In the last two stanzas, that's when our thrush comes in, the bird. Okay. In contrast to Hardy's negative attitude, the bird, the thrush, has this really beautiful voice. So it will sing out in this gloomy atmosphere and area, and Hardy's going to hear it. Or the narrator of the poem is going to hear this bird, and he's going to question what it's singing about. So he says about the bird that it sings in a full-hearted, even song of joy unlimited. So the bird has this unlimited, joyful beauty to it. And he's singing it upon the growing gloom. So again, it's in contrast to the narrator's negative feelings. And when the narrator in the last stanza thinks about why the bird is singing that way, the bird seems to have some kind of hope. He says, so little cause for caroling. So he's describing the bird as caroling. So little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound was written on terrestrial things afar or nigh around, that I could think there trembled through his happy goodnight air. So the bird has this happy goodnight caroling song. He could think, maybe with that song, that there could be some blessed hope. But he says, whereof he knew, the bird knew, and I was unaware. So even though the bird has this hopeful tune, Hardy is not going to say that he's as hopeful. So why do we read this pessimistic, angry person? First of all, his language is beautiful. He couldn't have been completely pessimistic because he did write poetry and he wrote novels, so he had a love for literature, he had a love for language. He writes really great imagery. His poems are pretty memorable to me, and it's sometimes nice to read poetry that's, we don't want to just read everything that's completely joyful and cheerful. We want some contrast in our readings. So that's Thomas Hardy, and those are the three poems. Hopefully that information helps you guys out as you begin reading them yourselves. Make sure you go to the classwork section of our Google Classroom and begin working on the question for the week. You'll have to answer a question about the theme of maybe all three of these poems, or you will have to answer about all three of these poems, the theme, and I want you guys to do a citation from each of the poems. Okay, so write a good paragraph or two so that you can get full credit. Okay, miss all you guys. I hope that we can see each other in an actual classroom soon. I will keep you guys updated as I hear more information. All right, take care. Talk to you soon.